It's 6 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will be discussing Conservation Reserve Program Essentials, an introduction to the Conservation Reserve Program. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kirsten Gundel. I'm the Outreach and Education Coordinator for Quail Forever and Pheasants Forever here in Missouri. I will be the moderator throughout tonight. And tonight our speakers are Drew Summers and Logan Baum, and we will meet them in just a second. But first, I have a little bit of housekeeping that we need to go over. Tonight, the webinar will be recorded. The recording will be available after the webinar. We will post it on our YouTube so that if there's anything that you missed that you would like to learn more about or need a little extra information, you can check that out. All mics and cameras will be muted during the webinar to limit distractions. There will also be a Q&A section, and you can see the little icon here throughout the entire presentation. If you have any questions, you can just pop them in that Q&A section. We have biologists that are working behind the scenes to answer any questions that you have. And then we will have a live Q&A at the end for certain questions that we think would be beneficial for everybody to hear out loud. So if you do have any tech issues, you can try refreshing and rejoining the Teams meeting. If you have any questions with your tech after that, you can pop them in the chat and I can try to help you out. And now I will turn it over to Drew Summers. He will be our first speaker of the night.
Hi, my name is Drew Summers. I'm the Quail Forever Farm Bill Wildlife Biologist out of Harrisonville. And tonight we will be introducing the CRP program and some of its benefits. We'll also be talking about eligibility and payments. And then we'll be discussing continuous CRP, general CRP, CRP management, and then how to submit a CRP offer. We will start with an introduction to CRP and some of its benefits. So the Conservation Reserve Program is administered by the Farm Service Agency, or FSA, under the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA. The technical responsibility is assigned to NRCS, or the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and is delivered in cooperation with partners such as Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. Since its beginning in 1985, CRP has been a land conservation program providing farmers and landowners a resource to remove a portion of their land from agricultural production and establish species that will improve environmental health in exchange for a rental payment. There are 3 different enrollment types through CRP: continuous CRP, general CRP, and grassland CRP. We'll be going into greater detail on continuous CRP and general CRP further on in this webinar. Grassland CRP is an option that focuses on preserving grasslands and promoting sustainable grazing practices. This sign-up differs from general and continuous enrollments in that it does not require a cropping history, but is rather focused on maintaining areas as grazing lands. A sign-up for this enrollment option will be announced by the Farm Service Agency at a later date. For more information regarding the sign-up, please refer to the Farm Service Agency's website. CRP brings several benefits to the land. 3 that we're going to be highlighting includes improving water quality, preventing the prevention of soil erosion, and providing support to wildlife habitat. Within this program, cropland is generally converted to some type of grassland or mixed prairie habitat, but can also be converted to wetlands, tree cover, or other beneficial wildlife habitat. This aids in reducing water runoff and sedimentation, protecting groundwater, and improving the condition of lakes, rivers, ponds, and streams. With the restoration of native habitat, CRP is a major contributor to increased wildlife habitat and wildlife populations across the country. CRP can reduce soil erosion and protects topsoil by taking highly erodible land out of cropping production and establishing cover that helps hold soil in place. CRP can also improve water quality by controlling runoff and sedimentation and other associated pollutants. CRP can also benefit agricultural operators by enrolling odd areas into the program. By squaring up fields and reducing point rows, equipment operation can be simplified in hard-to-farm areas. Additionally, partial enrollments of field edges might increase farm income by reducing input costs on less productive acres. Now that we've had a moment to introduce the program, let's discuss eligibility and payments. Producers who are eligible to receive payments are listed here. The Farm Service Agency will determine this eligibility. Being the administrator of the program, FSA also processes and makes payments for producers. To be eligible for the Conservation Reserve Program, the land must meet cropping history requirements, which is determined by reports made to the Farm Service Agency. For the 2026 sign-up period, land must have been cropped 4 out of the 6 years from 2012 to 2017. Additionally, a producer must have owned or operated the land for at least 12 months prior to placing the CRP offer. There are some exceptions to this ownership eligibility standard that can be approved by FSA. Finally, the land must be physically and legally capable of being planted in a normal manner. Technical assistance, such as USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service or Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever biologists, will complete a suitability and feasibility worksheet to ensure that the offered practices will address one or more resource concerns. This is often a time includes a site visit by technical staff on the offered acres. The general CRP signup has eligibility requirements that must meet in addition to the program requirements on the previous slides. These requirements include having a weighted average erosion index of 8 or higher, be enrolled in a CRP contract that expires September 30th, 2026, or be in a national state conservation CRP priority area. Here are Missouri's conservation priority areas. Each area is based on a different watershed. FSA will provide rental payments that are paid annually. This payment is determined using soil rental rates. The soil rental rates are based on relative productivity of the soils within each county and the average dryland cash rent or cash rent equivalent data provided by the National Agricultural Statistics Service. The 3 most predominant soils are reviewed in this process. Your local office will be able to provide payment estimates prior to submitting an offer. For General Sign-Up 66, the annual payments are set to an 85% of the limit of the soil rental rate. For the Continuous Sign-Up 65, annual payments are set at a 90% limit of the soil rental rate. For example, if the county soil rental rate is $100 per acre, the CRP payment for general CRP is $85 per acre, and continuous CRP rental rate is $90 per acre. In addition to receiving a rental payment, producers will receive a 50% cost share to establish the vegetation with some exceptions. If enrolled in a continuous CRP practice, a producer will also receive a sign-up incentive payment and potentially a practice incentive payment. These are both one-time payments that are made towards the beginning of an approved CRP contract. For more information, please reference the Farm Service Agency's CRP fact sheets. Now we're going to discuss continuous CRP. With continuous CRP enrollments housing much of the soil and water resource concern practices, these contracts are often small in acreage size compared to the general sign-up. Most continuous practices receive a practice incentive payment or a PIP payment. For approved practices, a newly enrolled contract will receive a 50% payment, and a re-enrolled contract will receive a 25% payment. These percentages are based on the participants' eligible costs to install the practices assigned in their contract. The continuous sign-up is not subject to competitive bidding, but offers must be submitted before the end of the announced batching period to be considered for an enrollment. If acres remain available, FSA will announce subsequent batching periods. Continuous CRP contracts are between 10 to 15 years in length. Although the continuous CRP sign-up houses many separate practices, these are some of the more common practices in Missouri. To review details on different CRP practices, please visit the Farm Service Agency's practice library. The largest of the two SAFE projects available in Missouri is the Quail and Monarch SAFE. As you can see on the map, most counties are eligible. The SAFE contracts require installation of core practices that establish a native grass and forb mix, which includes at least 3% milkweed, as well as other monarch preferred plants. To create escape cover for quail, producers must also create woody cover through edge feathering, down tree structures, or shrub plantings equivalent to 1% of their contract acres. Food plots can also be planted on up to 10% of the contract acres to provide early successional habitat. In 10 southeast Missouri and Boot Heel counties, the Sand Safe program is an option on uniquely sandy soils in the region. Several core vegetation practices are available with the SAFE project to establish native prairie habitats. CP33 and CP4D practices require the creation of woody cover through edge feathering, down tree structures, or shrub plantings on small portions of the acres. Disking and impact grazing are not allowed as management activities in Sand Safe contracts. Contracts that are expiring in 2026 will be accepted for re-enrollments on a first-come, first-served basis. Contract offers for new acres will also be accepted on a first-come, first-served basis if supported by the USDA's conservation priorities, such as addressing areas of water quality and restoring native habitat. Therefore, FSA cannot guarantee the acceptance of offers. Continuous offers that are made or that are submitted after March 20th deadline may be considered for batching periods in the future if acres remain under the CRP acreage cap. I'll now pass it along to Logan Baum, who will be talking about general CRP.
Hi, good evening. My name is Logan Baum. I am a Quail Forever Wildlife Biologist in Richmond, and we'll get going with general CRP here. Now that we've discussed the continuous, we'll kind of move more into the general CRP sign-up 66. General CRP is part of a competitive sign-up based on the Environmental Benefits Index, the EBI. FSA will rank offers based on this index. Similar to the continuous sign-up, contracts will be 10 to 15 years in duration. General CRP practices are not eligible for incentive payments. However, producers will still receive annual rental payments and cost share assistance. The general CRP sign-up contains practices that support a more whole field concept rather than small specific areas. Therefore, these contracts tend to be larger in size. Some common practices of the general CRP sign-up in Missouri are listed here. To review details of the different CRP practices, please visit the Farm Service Agency's practice library. As mentioned before, the general sign-up is subject to a national ranking process. The Environmental Benefits Index is a tool used during this process. A point score is assigned to each offer based on environmental benefits and costs. Data is then analyzed and offers are accepted based on the national ranking results. It is important to understand that it is not known at the time of submitting an offer what score will be accepted or when accepted applications will be announced. Each general CRP offer competes against all other offers made nationally. There are 6 environmental benefit index factors. N1, wildlife habitat benefits. N2, water quality benefits. N3, erosion reduction benefits. N4, enduring benefits. N5, air quality benefits. And N6, cost. Additional information can be found at the Farm Service Agency's CRP General Sign-Up 66 Environmental Benefits Index document. When working towards submitting an offer, there are some EBI factors that a producer can influence the scores of. These are influenced by choosing the type of vegetative cover and accepting a payment rate of equal or lower value than what's offered. Your N4, N5, and N6 score is based off of the choice of N1. Maximizing the EBI will increase the likelihood of an accepted offer. Let's review these 4 factors here next. Factor N1 is an evaluation of the expected wildlife benefits and equal the summation of 3 subfactors listed here. 10 to 100 points are possible. There are 3 subfactors to the N1. N1A, wildlife habitat cover, which will get 10 to 50 points. N1B, wildlife enhancement for 0, 5, or 20 points. And N1C, wildlife priority zones for 0 or 30 points. To get the total score for N1, you take N1A plus N1B plus N1C. Points are awarded for cover practices and habitat improvements. Native mixes of diverse species generally receive the highest point scores. Therefore, you can customize your cover to maximize EBI points. N1A is a wildlife habitat cover. N1A is for wildlife habitat cover benefits. The Farm Service Agency has assigned a point value for each cover planting within each state. In general, the higher the value is for wildlife, the higher points will be awarded. In general, the native and/or diverse cover types receive higher points. 50-point mixes include 3 to 5 native grasses and diverse forb species. Let's review an example for enhancing cover types. Here you have an existing monoculture stand of smooth brome, an introduced cool season grass. This will give you 0 N1A points towards your offer. This stand demonstrates a planting of a diverse stand of natives, CP25, or a pollinator mix, a CP42. This would give you 50 N1A points towards your offer. N1B is for wildlife enhancement. 2 practices that meet the N1B criteria include the establishment of pollinator habitat plot, CP42, or the establishment of wildlife food plot, CP12. Each practice has size, shape, and composition requirements that must be met. N4 is for enduring benefit. Factor N4 is an evaluation of the likelihood for certain practices to remain in place beyond the CRP contract period. You get the most points for trees, less points for pollinator, and no points for other types as reflected in this table. This table is referenced from the Farm Service Agency's CRP General Sign-Up 66 Environmental Benefits Index document. N5C is for carbon sequestration. Factor N5 elevates air quality improvements from reducing airborne dust and particulate matter caused by wind erosion from cropland and amount of carbon sequestered by CRP practice. N5C is based on relative availability of selected practices to sequester carbon. It provides a relative index of the projected carbon sequestration benefit of CRP cover types over the expected life of the practice. points assigned are practice-based as shown in the table here, meaning producers can influence and customize carbon sequestration points. The table is referenced from the Farm Service Agency's CRP General Sign-Up 66 Environmental Benefits Index document. N6 is for cost. N6 is made up of two subfactors, N6A and N6B. N6A is cost, which is determined after the end of the sign-up. Offers with lower per acre rental rates may increase chances of being accepted. N6B reduced payment offer based percent below the maximum payment rate offer. This can be reduced by 1 to 15%. Landowners may submit a CRP offer for the General Sign-Up 66 March 9th through April 17th. Only offers made during this time will be considered. Once the sign-up closes, offers will be put through the national ranking process, and accepted offers will be announced at a later date. For more information regarding the General CRP Sign-Up 66, please reference the Farm Service Agency's CRP General Enrollment Sign-Up document. Now we'll move on to the final section, submitting an offer. The first step to submitting a CRP offer is to get to your local FSA office prior to sign-up deadlines. It is recommended to not wait until the last few days to best allow FSA staff the appropriate amount of time to process an offer. Once you are in contact with your local FSA office, you can set up your farm and tract number and offer the acres you wish to enroll in the program. This will involve selecting CRP practices, mid-contract management type, and seeding. Eligibility checks will be needed next. With this, an NRCS suitability and feasibility worksheet will be completed, which often involves a site visit to be conducted by technical staff. If your CRP offer is approved, you will be notified by the Farm Service Agency. From there, your official rental rate and offer paperwork is drawn up by FSA. The offer will also need to go to NRCS for the creation of a conservation plan. Once this is completed, you will review your final contract with your local office and provide signatures for both NRCS and FSA documents. All right, now that we've reviewed the continuous and general CRP signups, let's discuss management of a CRP contract. Habitat management is an important part of holding a CRP contract. There are two types of required management within most contracts, the establishment management and the mid-contract management. The purpose of the establishment management is to manage weedy or invasive species while the planned cover establishes. The purpose of CRP mid-contract management is to keep the CRP tract in a condition that is providing the best possible wildlife habitat throughout the life of the contract. By applying some form of management to the tract in the future, cover can maintain most of these wildlife benefits throughout the 10 or 15-year life of the contract. Mid-contract management is not cost-share eligible. Throughout the life of the contract, producers are also responsible for controlling invasives and noxious weeds, as well as tree encroachment. Please refer to your local technical service provider to which species are included within your state. Common CRP management activities include prescribed fire, which does require an approved burn plan, strip disking, strip spraying with herbicide, and impact grazing. Prescribed grazing, high density, short duration. Eligible management activities may differ per state and CRP practice. Please refer to your local technical provider which activity is allowed and/or recommended for your CRP practice. Management practices shall not be conducted during the primary nesting season to protect nesting birds and young wildlife, except when necessary to control noxious weeds. In Missouri, the primary nesting season is May 1st to July 16th. If you need to control a noxious weed during the primary nesting season, please contact your local Farm Service Agency before doing so. Emergency and non-emergency haying and grazing may be available to your CRP acres. Emergency haying and grazing may be authorized to provide relief to livestock producers in areas affected by a severe drought or other natural disaster. This becomes available for counties when the U.S. Drought Monitor has reached a level D2 drought, which is severe. Non-emergency haying and grazing may be utilized for select CRP practices without drought or natural disaster, but may be accompanied by a payment reduction percentage in the annual payment. There are also frequency restrictions that must be followed. If acres are declared eligible for non-emergency haying and grazing, a producer must work with their NRCS or other technical service provider to modify their conservation plan to reflect these activities. In both emergency and non-emergency situations for haying and grazing, a producer must submit a request within their local Farm Service Agency office before conducting these activities. Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever have Farm Bill biologists who are here to help with your CRP journey. Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever Farm Bill Biologists program is designed to educate farmers and landowners about the benefits of conservation programs, as well as assist those landowners after programs have been implemented. We call it the one-stop shop for anything conservation and wildlife related on private lands. What we do as Farm Bill biologists. We promote enrollment of U.S. Department of Agriculture Farm Bill conservation programs like the Conservation Reserve Program. We also add wildlife technical assistance to USDA offices to assist the Natural Resource Conservation Service, Farm Service Agency, and other conservation partners with delivering conservation programs to landowners. Here is a map of our Quail Forever staff in Missouri. Each county that is highlighted a different color does host a wildlife biologist. For contact information and to learn more about us here in Missouri, you can visit missouripfqf.org. You can also go on to the Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever national site and find a biologist to locate a biologist that is closest to you. For counties that don't have a biologist actively in them, you can still reach out to a local Farm Bill biologist that is closest to you for assistance, and they can come out to assist you. Sign up date reminders. The first batching period for continuous sign up is 65 is open from February 12th through March 20th. Continuous offers will be accepted on a first come, first served basis. If acres are still available once this batching period concludes, future batching periods may be announced. The general sign-up 66 is available from March 9th through April 17th. If offers are accepted within either sign-ups, contract start dates will be effective October 1st, 2026. A grassland CRP sign-up will be announced at a later date.
Okay, so we are going to open it up to questions from the participants. First, we have a question for Logan. If I want to burn for CRP, what is the purpose for getting a burn plan or process for getting a burn plan written?
So if you plan to use prescribed burning as your management activity, you must have a burn plan written by a certified burn planner. Planners from MDC, PFQF, NRCS, or other technical service providers can be asked directly, or FSA can also help connect you with a planner. We do ask that burn plan requests are made 12 months in advance for adequate planning time and burn preparation. And the process is outlined in the CRP prescribed burn plan request guide sheet. MDC also offers a course for landowners interested in prescribed burning that we do highly recommend. It is very informational. Any other questions?
Oh, sorry. I have one for Drew. I've heard that prescribed burning is the best for quail habitat. What options are there to get help with burning my CRP? You're muted, Drew.
Goodness, thank you.
I did that too. It's okay.
That's a good question. There are burn contractors that are available throughout the state. You can reach out to your local office. Most of them keep burn. Most of them keep contractor lists of folks who are available to do some of that. There are also several prescribed burn associations found throughout the state. PBAs are neighbors helping neighbors put prescribed fire in the ground. If you go to the Missouri Prescribed Fire Council website, they have local contacts for PBAs in the areas.
Thank you, Drew. Next question is for Logan. I have Serratia lespedeza problem on my land. What can I do to control Serratia on my CRP?
So there are multiple avenues for controlling Serratia. The best one being chemical application to Serratia. The biggest thing you want to do is avoid letting Serratia get to seed. Chemical application can happen either in the spring or in August before it goes to flower. Prescribed burning in the growing season around that August time can also kill out Serratia. And you can also mow it down to avoid it going to seed. However, that doesn't kill out the Serratia that's currently there. For more information, you can also contact your local Farm Bill biologist or technical staff member at NRCS.
Okay, next one is for Drew. What are the best CRP practices to improve quail habitat on my land?
There are a lot of CRP practices that can help on improve habitat for quail. Generally, any of them that you can get that are going to add native grasses and forbs or wildflowers onto your property are going to improve habitat for quail. There's a couple in particular, though, that I would like to point out. One is CP33s, which are cropland buffers for upland birds. Those are somewhere between a 30 and 120 foot buffer around annual crop fields that incorporate our native grasses for nesting cover and native forbs for brood rearing cover. And then most of the time in the 33s, you have to include some sort of woody cover. So down tree structures, edge feathering, something along those lines to improve that woody component, the covey headquarters that we need. Another really good one, if you're thinking maybe a whole field practice, would be a CP4D. So that's permanent wildlife cover. Those again have many of our native warm season grasses as a component, and many of our native forbs as components, and then has the woody components as a requirement too. So both of those could be really good options depending on whether you're wanting a field border or a partial field sign up or a full field sign up.
Great, thank you, Drew. Logan, what are some minimum and maximum amount of acres you can enroll in some of the CRP programs?
So when it comes to the minimum and maximum acre size, one of the biggest ones that I remember that comes to mind is a continuous pollinator. For the CP42 pollinator under continuous, you can enroll up to 10 acres or 10% of your cropped acres, whichever limit you hit first. So after that, then you would have to go with another continuous practice or a general practice. But that is the biggest one that comes to mind right offhand.
Great, thank you, Logan. As far as I'm aware, that is all the questions we're going to address live for tonight. If you are wanting to connect with Quail Forever, Pheasants Forever, and Missouri more, hop on more webinars like this or go to some in-person workshops for landowners, you can follow us on social media. We have chapters across the state as well, and they hold all kinds of family events, learn to hunt, banquets, and you can stay up to date on all of the state team updates by following us on those social media platforms as well. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we will be posting this to our YouTube as well. So if you missed anything throughout this webinar, you can hop on there and rewatch it. If you have any questions, you can also check out our website and find a biologist in your area to learn more that can help you in the future. So thank you, Logan and Drew, for presenting tonight. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this webinar.